evening, everybody. You are watching Direct Line Live. My name is Jackie Saxtein, and tonight I am joined by our third and final candidate for MDGOP Chairman, Tim Fazenbaker. Tim, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So why don't you start off by giving us a little bit of a background about you and how you got involved in Maryland politics?
Sure. So I'm a Baltimore native, born in Baltimore, grew up in Baltimore County, university, studied psychology. When I got married and wanted to have kids, I moved back to Point. I was an executive in the mental health care field. I'm a small business owner, politics and state politics, roughly about 4 years ago, mainly due to the fact that I did not want my children to have to go through. I wanted them to have a better life than I wanted to continue the greatness of being in the community where I grew up. And that's how I went to meetings. And then I thought I had a lot to offer with my expertise in mental health and understand. That's what brings me here today.
Awesome. And can you talk a little bit about your experience in Maryland politics thus far?
Yeah. So I ran for Congress in district, and that district was gerrymandered all over the place, from North Laurel to Havre de Grace and around the belt, very well. And that was my first real experience in getting in voices. And we went outside and we brought in national figures to come and help the surrounding areas. We brought in people like Ben Strzok from Walkaway Movement. We brought in Scott Press. We're registering new Republicans, and we realized we had a winning message. The things that really stuck out was Dutch Ruppersberger had been in public office as long as I'm not a spring chicken, so that's a long time. I am now in the Baltimore County, and I was asked to run or be nominated for the GOP, and I believe my background and my drive and my vision is exactly what's needed. Have a strong Republican Party so that we can better benefit the citizens of this great.
So you started to touch on it, but I want to go deeper into that. You said that somebody had approached you and asked you to run for chair. So can you talk about what made you want to run for chair? Because, anyone could be asked, but you had to really want to do it, right? It's a big job.
It's a big job. So at the organization, I love being a Republican. I've been a Republican my whole life. Disappointed in the fact that when I was a child, my first president I remember was Ronald Reagan in 1984. Ever since then, we have not voted for a Republican for president in Congress, and in Annapolis continued to slip. And I grade people, organizations, off their performance. And when I looked at the numbers of and nothing was stopping it, I was afraid that we were going to turn into the Republican Party of, say, or California. There are some exceptions with California. They are starting to have a revolution, but that in a bit. When I thought about it, I said, you know what? I bring something different, an executive approach to running an organization. I bring the understanding that we need a vision, and I know how to recruit and bring people. And that's why my slogan has been party, because that is how we get people into being proud to be a Republican.
So one of the biggest jobs that the MDGOP chairperson has is fundraising, enough to keep the lights on and the staff and everything like that. So can you talk a little bit about what your strategy would be to fundraise as chair?
Sure. So the number one thing to remember is if you don't have no money's going to fix it. You'll be throwing money into a sinking ship. So foundation, which I was hitting on just a second ago, which is to have a mission statement and a vision, to have autonomy with accountability, to have strong recruiting efforts and goals that we meet. And once you have those things in place, you can have people invest into looking and donating to the Republicans, and not just talking about from the top down. When people see that you are now leveraging the grassroots donors larger donors that say, I want to be a part of that. And you have conservatives from other states to say, I want to move there. And, we want Maryland to be like Florida, proud that that you got a great chance to win all the time. So, and then you grow the party with the grassroots donations. But this is where you donors. My connections with people like Brandon Strzok and different congressmen around and people like that were within, say, President Trump's campaign that were working on my campaign go to. And we have a strong connection with Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida. People, well, those are the people that they see when we are creating a positive movement, their resources and power to help grow the party buttons that are needed to make sure that we're on the right path and win and be victorious in Maryland.
So we have a couple people just really quickly mentioning that your feed is a little spotty. I don't know if you want to take a second to try and refresh it.
Okay.
In the meantime, hello everybody watching on Facebook and YouTube. Hopefully you're all having a great week so far and had a great Thanksgiving.
Okay, I hope that helps. If not, I apologize.
I think it's still a little bit spotty, but we'll keep going and we'll see how it shakes out. Okay, so we talked a little bit about fundraising. One of the other questions I've been asking the candidates is, right now we have a very clearly divided Republican Party.
Yes.
So how would you work to bring together the two factions of the party that seem to be kind of in constant battle with each other?
Correct. First thing, winning cures most things. But in order to understand why we have these different factions in the party that after each other and fight for the dominance in the party, it's because we don't have a unifying. Many Republicans listening today in Maryland, do you know what our platform is in this state? But each state is slightly different. Maryland is not Mississippi. Maryland is not Oklahoma. Maryland, when we unify and we create a platform, we break down the team mentality that we work, and we end up unifying around a platform that fits Marylanders. That platform, the path forward and the gateway to bringing in other people who aren't Republicans at the moment. But we unify under a platform that Marylanders want that is also constitutional.
Awesome. Yeah, so it looks like you're still having a couple of feed issues. I'm not sure how you want to go about doing that. If you want to try turning off your phone, turning it back on, or logging back in. Well, I mean, we'll still make sure that you have
Jackie, just keep going because it's actually fine on desktops. People have been saying it's okay.
Okay, good.
Good on desktops. It's just so people can always go back to our YouTube and watch this again. If they're missing anything, it'll be fine.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks, Dwight. Okay. We do have a question that came in from Facebook. We have somebody is asking, while our state looks small on a map, are you willing to travel across the state to connect with each county?
Oh, of course. Many people will tell you that prior to this, I had been an army of people to end up getting involved and to get the motivated. So Western Maryland will tell you, I've been there, many times in all the counties of the county, to the shore. I've been doing that, and I will continue to do that. And I promise we'll have a voice if I'm the chairman, and I will be there at every single committee. Will have me and the team there to make sure that we hear what is going on, are the foundation of what we do. And we know that the committees know we're a national level because they are right there on the ground. They know the people in those communities. So and in the past, you have seen me go to Boston, to Arizona, to states to help bring in those national resources to also help our state.
So what would be, because we have some counties like on the shore and Western Maryland that are a lot easier to get some red seats elected to than there are, say, for example, Montgomery County or Peachey County. So I'm in Montgomery County. What would be your strategy to try and win in some of those really deep blue areas?
And this is where we've been successful. And I love to tell this story because I was working. Their mission was to walk away, and it was never completed. There was never a walk to. I, I was a keynote speaker for someone down at the Arts Social Club, and at that meeting, they began to, in a sense, boo now running as a Republican, and he looked for help, and I asked the question, said, "Do you believe in?" And I named off certain principles that most Republicans tend to support. So why don't you vote Republican? They said, because we think Republicans are racist. I said, let's go with that. If you believe that, but you believe in don't you help take it over, make it your Republican Party? When that happened, and many people, and they said, you're right. We can take it over. We can make our imprint, and that's what the party was founded for. It's your party. You make it your party way that Republicans believe, with freedom and constitutional beliefs, mark on it, and that is how we end up making the party grow into these communities have not gone. And these are things that I've done and will continue to do, and will be a major focus. I was very, very proud 2 years ago when President Trump had mentioned that 9 Black Republicans running, which was more than any other city in this nation. And most of those I had connections with, that I helped recruit, develop, whatever. I was down there. Not necessarily what helped my own community. It was about helping their communities, which will in turn well. But we need community leaders in every community. We need to have people running in all of those be vacant, so that the Democrats take everything. We need to grow those, and we need to do it by being in those areas.
So I'm going to put a spin on another question that just came in and add my little own personal take to it. The question is asking about bringing Jewish people specifically into the Republican Party. Now, I'm Jewish, and watching what's been going on the news recently with Nick Fuentes and Kanye West, and a lot of the anti-Semitism coming from the far right. Marjorie Taylor Greene is another good example. What would be your response to Jewish people to say, actually, the Republican Party is a welcoming Big Tent party that would welcome you?
Yeah. First thing is you have to have Jewish heritage in my lineage as well. I've gone to Chabad, I've gone to synagogues, sat down with rabbis and spoke about events going on in their community and understanding the faith. And I think that is the first line in a state like Maryland, especially in the Baltimore area. I grew up around many faith, and it was such a natural thing for me to live next to a Christian or whatever it was. I know in other states they may not have a large Jewish population, so it seems that is something that's been very unique about Baltimore. We had our pockets of were in communities like Greek Town and Little Italy and things like that practice their own culture, but it assimilated into the American culture. I would say is, first of all, we need to have an understanding of what our culture and respect that. And that means going into synagogues and other things like that, and are pushing things that aren't conservative or Republican beliefs. You're doing something, say, if you're pushing anti-Semitism, those need to be called out and addressed as well. In this, you have the God-given right to do whatever you want with your life, provided you do not take away that.
So we talked a little bit about some of the specific things that you'd be in charge of as chairman, but in your own words, how would you define the role of MDGOP chair?
I will say this first. You will never know my personal support during a primary. And that is because my role is to make sure that we win. And that means the wishes of the people who vote in those primaries to vote for somebody who fits our platform. And then whomever wins, that person will have this organization, including myself. So my role is to be impartial, but to grow in, to bring in money, to recruit. All these things need to be laid out on the table, and they will be. And metrics will be, this is where we will grade ourselves. And then in 2-4 years, whatever it's going to be, did this organization meet these numbers? Are we growing? Yes or no? And they can make results.
So a little bit down ballot then, what would you just say, because currently in our bylaws, and I think for good reason, there is no definitions of the roles of the 3 vice chairs. So what would you task your vice chairs to do? What would you want them to be out doing?
Initial thought was each person needs to have a role in a representation of the state, or somebody may have Southern Maryland, Central Maryland, and Western Maryland. And they're responsible for the matter experts in different areas. One might be, say, technology, one might be recruiting, it could be anything. Each of these people will be given certain responsibilities to their ability, develop those if need be. If they don't meet those, we need to bring in somebody that can leverage whatever other resources they may provide and move them into a different area or something, and brightest, because the person at the top is only as good as the people around them. The people that are in those positions need to be experts and be held accountable for the results. Only helping and training and education and schooling, or we're bringing in other outside grow that's what we will do. But each person will have responsibilities, and they will be known to the board that they are held accountable to achieve those results.
So can you talk a little bit about how you would help out some of these specific, the individual central committees within the counties? Because, you have some that have a lot of vacancies that aren't getting filled. You have some that are accomplishing more than others. So how would you work with different central committees to make sure that they're all as successful as possible?
You have to understand the belief that the smallest government is the best. So that talks about being committees tend to know what is best for their communities. And that means that we have the Board of Education and the committee members itself and the districts and council members and things like that. That means we need to make sure we're funding those level and not from a top-down approach where we may say sometimes throwing money into a race now won't win. We start the grassroots campaign. So that's the first thing we have to remember. It's form of government and supporting them. From there needs to be training involved set, because there is no vision, I believe, right now within this party. And so we kind of goal that can be attainable for people to say, this is what we need you to do in order to you're this party in this state, and we need you to get these numbers by this time. And here's how we're that platform for them. And right now, if you go to most committees and members, they don't feel as if the committees, first of all, are cohesive and fighting there, but they also feel as if their wishes aren't heard. At times, the money is pushed in other areas where they think it would be best if it went to those local.
Okay. We have another question that came in. How can the MDGOP recruit new candidates and give them the support they need, especially in districts where no Republicans usually run?
Yes. 2.5 years ago, let's say, I was that guy who wasn't elected, who went down in the city and other areas, went into Jewish areas as well, and I expressed my willingness to listen. And that is the number one thing. It's to listen. As a Republican, we should honor the wishes of the constituents. So we go into conversations. That means a world of difference to many people. I've heard a few down in my community, usually Republicans never come here. That's what needs to change. They want to listen to the person from their own community. They believe in that person because they understand what they may not want an outsider. But that's why we help and find and recruit people to say, be a leader, help spread the message. and we give you the resources to help. And I'll be right there with you. You to do, I will do as well. And that is how we were successful in Baltimore City. By that, most people see there's a lot of growth in the Republicans in Baltimore City because and we've increased our numbers from 1.8% of the total vote, to 8, 9%, 10% on some things. But those are steps that need to happen in order to get to the promised land, which is 50%.
So, and I've asked this question to both other people, so not just at you. Why would you say you are more qualified than the other two candidates in this race to be chair? Why should people vote for you over the other two candidates?
So my background first fits. I've ran organizations and mental health organizations. I understand that the Republican Party is and needs to be run like an effective organization. Understanding that, I have yet to hear anybody talk about what is our mission statement, what is our vision. That is something that I understand. I've been successful at hiring people and growing businesses. I understand those aspects. But the understanding of the human mind tend to think, whether it's logically or emotionally, is the other aspect that I bring. I haven't heard many people talk about, which is you cannot connect necessarily to people who think given them logic. You need to find a way to connect to that person through emotion. That I've been able to do, something I'm willing to help facilitate, train, do whatever it is. Reach people that don't think like us, but to get them to ultimately believe, which is being able to help each other and be free. And right now, they've been very successful in creating a mindset of what in a negative way. And that is how we change it, by understanding how people think on the level that they wish to be spoken to.
So let's talk a little bit more about the campaign, not your campaign, but campaigning aspect of being chair. So when we have candidates that come in, they're looking for help from the party. What kind of help do you believe it's the party's responsibility to provide?
2 years ago, when I did run I felt like I did not support that I was hoping I would get, because many people will first run for a race and get involved and help me with everything. I didn't feel that way. Many candidates don't. So what I did, besides national figures to help bring attention and resources here, I created an app that we call catchthevote.com. And like Camp Things and Nation Builder, this is way better. And what we did was we find the people, first of all, that we needed to go to and get out our message. And when I talked about California earlier, one of those seats that flipped this year in California, using catchthevote.com. That is something, first of all, that we will give to the party. This is the resource that we're providing you on our own. This innovation is something that we it what was needed, and it's be available for free for every Republican running a thing that personally I can provide that will help candidates right away, and it will help the whole. Outside of that, it is building those relationships with people outside of the state to say, well, we need your help in certain things, and we can reciprocate, because the state does not have. It could be an expert in technology or something along those lines. And when we help each other, we help the region and we help the entire country. Those are the types of things that resources we will bring so that our party can grow and become the dominant party in this state.
So this catchthevote.com, is that the same as Campaign Sidekick? It's a door knocking app?
It's way better. Yes. It's a door knocking app, but it also does way more than that. And I will tell you, every single person that uses it, this was made for the user and made for the Republican user. This is not made for us.
Okay. Oh gosh, I just had my other question right on the top of my head. Let's see. I'll use my backup question so I remember that one. But so we talked a little bit about bringing in the Jewish population. Can you talk a little bit about bringing in younger people?
Oh, of course. One thing that I'm very proud of, and I know it might sound a little strange, is my very first job, high school and college, I worked at Chick-fil-A. And I bring this up because Chick-fil-A was understanding a lot of things in my professional life. I'm very, very close with where I work named Steve. And he had helped me understand how to grow. And now, generally in a fast food place, you're working with other younger people. But what Chick-fil-A was something unique. And most people will say, and they will admit, that when you go to Chick-fil-A, you hear plug for Chick-fil-A. It's just my history. When you go there, they say, my pleasure is known to be better than their competitors. Why? They put the effort and the effort into recruiting the people that they think would have the best return on investment. They spend hours in going into houses of worship and to schools that focus where these children can buy into and invest into Chick-fil-A. They take care of their people. That is something that I believe our party needs to do into people coming out of high school, understanding and being ahead of motor voter registration. We need to be doing things maybe like TikTok. I've never been there. So social media stuff. Things change. If we do not change, we will lose. Those need to have, and I believe with the proper messaging and the proper platform, towards wanting to be a Republican in Maryland.
So I remember my other question.
All right.
One of the big things that we're seeing that, I mean, just doesn't look like it's going to be going away is the prevalence of mail-in voting. So what would be your approach, or what approach do you think we as Republicans, at least in the state of Maryland, should be taking to mail-in voting?
Yeah, this is multifaceted. Many Republicans don't want to embrace it because of the of mail-in voting, and rightfully so. However, what we do is, and we let the Democrats set the groundwork and the rules. So we need to be proactive and on the offense. First of all, we need to play their game, temper them at this as well. Beat them at the mail-in ballots, beat them at what they are putting forward. At the same time, behind the scenes, we fight the constitutionality of these things. But we need, in the interim, we will continue to lose if we do not match and exceed what types of things. But we can fight both fights at the same time, but we need to be staying ahead of the Democrats on this while fighting the legality of what they have put forth.
So how would you approach the relationship between the Maryland Republican Party and its auxiliaries? So the college Republicans, the Young Republicans, the Women's Federation, the BRC, and to a certain extent as well, the Log Cabin Republicans.
Yeah. So, and I work closely with those organizations currently. So when you have, I'll go back to this, when you statement, each of those auxiliary organizations in a sense know what everyone. So now you have the conversation that can start on an even playing field and say, this is your role and what is going on. But what do you need? And listen, dictate down to others that this is the way it's going to happen. As I said before, though, you were on. So bringing in those organizations, understanding their needs, understanding that they need and metrics to meet, that is important because each organization tires some of what we're doing. And when you help them, you're helping the entire organization. And just go on their own, you have the dichotomy that we see in the party, different sections and factions. That's how we unify.
So we're coming to the end. So I just want to give you a chance to give your closing statement or argument or anything else that you want to say before we wrap up.
I appreciate that. very much. I have been a person that never six. I was successful in certain aspects of life, and I believe the qualities I bring are beneficial to the party. And I believe that was laid out and a platform laid out so that we know where we're going. And I feel right now do not know what the end game is. So if you look at the left and socialism as their goal, what is it as on the right? Well, we need freedom, and that needs to be the ultimate goal. And I can work with people to help do that and facilitate that. Running an organization, I know what it takes, set metrics and put that in place. I know how to inspire people as well. I understand the human nature and what it takes to grow those communities into not just hating Democrats, but wanting to be a Republican and making it their party. How to raise funds and get donors here. And I understand recruiting. Take a look at my history. The past few years that I've been involved in policy changes, and I've been someone on the outside that has done this. I believe if you continue, the same people, the same mindsets and things, you won't get a change. If you bring in somebody who believes that you have to have innovation and find a new path forward, that is how you go inspired. That is what I bring. And I've always been principled. People who know me will know exactly what is on my mind. And I will always fight for freedom, and I will fight for our Republican Party.
Awesome. All right, Tim, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, everybody who's out there watching, and those of you watching this after the fact. And best of luck to you coming up at the convention on December 10th. And we'll be back next week with another guest.
Thank you very much.